Hello, we are live on the Sudds-R-Us podcast. We have a show in store for you today.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome to the show. We're so glad that you're here.
Yes, we just thank God for this opportunity to come before you once again. This is our 139th episode. We have truly been blessed. So we just praise God for blessing us as we continue to focus on family. Now, our last episode at the beginning of this month, as we focus on family, the topic was the family influence, good or bad. The family influence, good or bad. And we talked about how parents' influence, good or bad, can affect their children's behavior. So we have to spend time, quality time with our children or grandchildren, teaching them through examples, engagement, and encouragement. So as we continue on family, we thank God we're able to celebrate Women's History Month. So that's going to be our topic, celebrating Women's History Month. And our subtopic is discussing the importance of improving and achieving health throughout the world for all people. With our first cousin, Dr. Altrena, Mukuria, Ashe, we're just so excited and grateful to God to have my mother, Margie Lawrence Sutter's big sister, Ruth Lawrence Gaddison's daughter, with us on today. And I've always admired my big cousin, and I'm just so excited about her educational accomplishments and professional achievements. And she has been an inspiration to me, basically to continue my education and spiritual development over the years. So we thank God for her.
And before we get started, we always want to give a shout out to our fellow podcasters here on this great network, BS3. And of course, our fearless leader, Ben Sutter III, Mr. Podcaster, Mr. Podfather, tongue twister there, Mr. Visionary himself. So we are grateful to be under his leadership and all that he's done to get us started on our, into our fifth season. But he works tirelessly, making sure that we, the podcasters on this network, operate in a spirit of excellence. So we're so thankful and grateful for our son, who offers coaching, by the way. If there's anyone watching that wants to get up and running in the podcasting arena, he is not selfish. He will get you up and running. If you're not interested in being a part of our network, believe me, he will get you up and running. So contact him. And of course, we are on Roku TV. If you have not downloaded us on your Christmas devices, I don't know what you're waiting for. You got so much content there to choose from, something for the whole family. We would love for you to download that on your TV. And also, if you'd like to reach out to us at the Sudds-R-Us podcast, our email address is on the screen. We'd love to hear from you. And without further ado, we'd like to just give you a snippet of BS3 Network, and then we'll begin the show. Stay tuned.
BS3 Network, changing the way you watch TV.
All right. We're back. We got one comment already. It's from my son, BS3. And you can support BS3 Network by sending stars. Stars help us to earn money to continue building the network, Thank you, everyone, for tuning in on today. All right, so we're so excited about Dr. Altrena. Welcome to the show. Yes. First of all, just give us some information about your upbringing, your family, your educational background, whatever inspires you. We want you to inspire us today. So please inspire us. Give us anything that you would like to start off with as far as your history.
All right. Thank you so much. It's an honor and a pleasure to be invited to your podcast. I'm really pleased that you thought to invite me and so that I could share a bit about my life. As you all know a bit as well, at being that we are cousins and we are going to a family reunion soon. But yes, for everyone else, I am Altrena Mukuria Ashe. I have a doctorate in public health. I'm originally from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And as they mentioned, my mother was Ruth Lawrence Gaddison, and my dad, Otis Gaddison III. He's from North Carolina. She's from South Carolina. So I grew up in Philadelphia, went to Philadelphia High School for Girls. Girls High. And then on to college. I have one brother, Otis Gaddison III. Went on to college in Boston, Massachusetts, for 3 years. I did do 1 year in Williamstown, Massachusetts. Let me not forget that. But I've always had an interest in Africa. I really have always had, since I was a little girl watching Animal Kingdom on TV. I would see all those animals in Africa and wonder about, where are the people? What are the people like, But they didn't put that on TV back then, really got a sense of what Africa was like. And I always had that strong curiosity as a young child. So I always was trying to find a way how I could get there. My education took me on to University of California, Berkeley, where I did a master's in public health. I majored in health and nutrition planning, policy, and regulation. And I wanted to, with my strong desire to go to Africa, to do my residency in Africa. Our coursework required 6 months residency. And I wanted to see, how do you do nutrition and health planning and policy in a low-income setting in Africa. And so University of California had an exchange program, a study abroad program in Nairobi, Kenya, with the University of Nairobi. And so my second year off, I went to Nairobi, Kenya as a study abroad student and did my residency at the University of Nairobi. And within there, they call their departments, what we call departments, they call ministries. So in the Ministry of Health, I did an internship around health planning. And so after that, I wanted to stay and get some experience because I wanted to work with a US-based NGO doing global health, as we call it now. But they always require you have some experience. And so I said, let me try and stay here and get some experience. So then when I go back, I can work. Well, I ended up staying 20 years. I got a job with the International Division of Planned Parenthood Federation of America. They had an Africa regional office based in Nairobi, and we provided funding and support for family planning services in about 25 countries with about 50 projects that we funded throughout Africa. As you may not be aware, Africa has now about 54 countries. So it's a large continent, and we cover a little less than half of it with our family planning services, helping their ministries of health, helping missions and others to extend family planning services to families in Africa. So I did that for about 10 years. And I married a Kenyan and had 3 beautiful Kenyan children. And after my second child, I decided, let me slow down a bit from all this international travel. And I got to work in control of diarrheal diseases. The child survival movement was coming out before most of the foreign assistance was in what they call population. So they were moving more to broaden to child survival. And one of the areas was controlled diarrheal diseases. And so that was focused just on Kenya. So I didn't travel with that job. And I was concerned that all of the work we were doing around controlled diarrheal diseases were focused on infrastructure. You need clean water, focused on treatment of babies who already had diarrhea. But my background was in public health. So I'm like, how do we prevent these babies from getting sick? What can families do at the home level that, or look at something that they're already doing right and try to promote it and expand it, instead of constantly telling them this is wrong and that is wrong, you have to wash your hands, you have to do this, etc. And so what came across my desk one day was a paper that said that breastfeeding, exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months, will prevent the deaths of children. What you find is diarrhea is the number 2 killer of children, and the number 2 reason why children are sick. Number 1 is pneumonia from respiratory infections. Number 2 is diarrhea, and number 3 is measles. So breastfeeding, a simple thing, which in Kenya, everybody breastfed. People breastfed in public, on buses, anywhere. You see mamas breastfeeding everywhere. So this is something they do. So how can we encourage them and say, you're doing a great job. How can you improve or strengthen it so that it can prevent diarrhea in babies? What I found was it was exclusive breastfeeding. That means nothing by mouth but the breast milk. No water except for medicine. If the child needs medicine, they don't need any water. They don't need any additional foods. Don't need fruit juice. Don't need anything else but breast milk. And that, although in Kenya, 90% of women breastfed, 90% of babies were breastfed, only 60%, and in fact less, were exclusively breastfed for 6 months. So then I became curious, why is this? Why aren't they doing it? Why are they giving water? Why aren't they able to just like not give anything else? So that requires some research. And so then I went back to school, to Johns Hopkins School of Public Health, Bloomberg School of Public Health.
Hold on for a second before you go there.
Slow down.
I know you're going pretty fast now.
I'm sorry.
I don't want you to breeze through it too quickly. We just got another guest. We just want to recognize them. Charstina, our cousin, on the Durham side, Irene's cousin. Hello, family. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in. Now you talked about Berkeley, because you went kind of fast.
Sorry.
But we're very transparent on this show.
Yes,
right? Let everybody know what actually happened in Berkeley, because we met in Berkeley in '82. Yeah, really. We're talking about families, we talk about breastfeeding, we talk about babies, right? So so we ended up hooking up with you in
Berkeley. And your mama.
Right. And I didn't even know, initially I didn't know that you was there till we actually got there. And because Clinton, Irene's brother, was at Bolt School of Law, and then you were at Berkeley. And
I think this is when I came back.
You came back. Okay.
I was at Berkeley. I'm telling my age. I was at Berkeley in 78.
78. Okay.
And then I went to Africa in 70. I was in Berkeley 77 to 78, and I went to Kenya in 78. So I came back. That was I came back to do my PhD. I was doing it at Hopkins. But when I saw you in Berkeley was when I came to present a paper of some research that I'd done. And so I come for a conference in California, and that's when I hooked up with Auntie and you guys. And then we came again with my second husband, Bruce, for a family reunion.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So the funny thing happened with that was that when I was there for the conference, went to see your mom, and your mom lived in the apartment building next door to the building I lived in 20 years before when I was going to school.
On San Pablo?
San Pablo, yes. I was on 50, it was 54th Street or something, and her building faced San Pablo, and my building faced 54th Street or whatever street it was.
Oh my goodness.
Can you imagine?
I never
You're talking
knew
about
that.
a small world from Philly and North Carolina.
Yes.
End up in Berkeley.
Yes.
Berkeley, California.
Wow.
Yes.
It's interesting how life takes you around and around in different ways and retouch. Yes.
Right.
So that was the connection there. So anyway, I came back to Baltimore to to Hopkins to do some research, to do my PhD and be able to do research around. I wanted to look at exclusive breastfeeding. So my dissertation study was on the role of social support and social networks for exclusive breastfeeding. And I did it in a low income community in Nairobi, not far from where we lived. And so I collected data, and what I learned is that fathers and grandmothers are key influencers on mothers' ability to breastfeed. They are key supporters, as well as friends and neighbors, but those two. And it was funny when I was collecting the data qualitatively, mothers would say, I said, what do fathers do? He said, you're lucky if he washes his own shirt. He doesn't do anything. But we went back every 2 weeks to the same household and interviewed the mothers and asked them, who helped you do all the key things that mothers said they needed? They needed help with washing clothes. They needed help with cooking, with going shopping, with cleaning the house, taking care of the other children. Who was doing all of that? The father.
The father. Oh,
Wow.
okay.
But her view overall was that he didn't do anything. But we found every time we went every 2 weeks, and I asked her, who did this, who did that, who did it? It was him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so fathers are really important, and grandmothers. And in the Kenyan context, and often much of Africa, even Asia and others, you find the mother-in-law, that grandmother, the mother of the father, is the one who influences what happens in the household and the things that are practiced. And they will tell you, you know, we do this and we do that. And then the father, the husband, of course, says, well, if my mother raised 10 children, she knows what she's doing. So, you know, you're going to follow. So we realize that you cannot just focus on the mother and tell her it's important to breastfeed and support her. You have to engage those other family members and get them on board. And once they understand the importance of it and what's needed, then she will be supported to do that.
Okay.
And that makes sense because, I'm sorry, that makes sense because in essence, you're just focused on that solely, pretty much, breastfeeding. So you need that support.
Right.
And everything else is at a standstill because you're sitting there breastfeeding.
And you need to rest after you've given birth.
That's true.
Right.
But you know, and I find that not only was that true in Africa and in low middle income countries, it's true here in the US. That what I find now in my work, that mothers are coming home from giving birth, and within days they want to clean the house, they want to take care of the other children, they want to do all these things. They're totally exhausted, and they find that it might be easier to give the baby a bottle of formula than so that they can do these other things. But wait a minute, you have all these other people around you who can do those other things. So really, you should be focused on, in some cultures, you know, mothers stay locked up alone with their baby for 40 days so that they can truly recover.
Wow.
Right? But here we have, after 6 weeks, you're supposed to go back to work because we don't have maternity leave. And even after a couple of days, you know, you have some other children, you got to do this, you got to do that. So I know that you have helped your children with your grandchildren. And I've done the same and encourage everybody that if you know a breastfeeding family, don't go in and say, can I help feed the baby? What you need to do is, can you cook them a meal? Make them a cooked meal, or give them a gift certificate to their favorite restaurant so they can order some food so that mama can rest. And even because they've been up all night, you know how babies are. They've been up all night. And can you offer, let me do a few loads of laundry for you? Can I clean up for you? Can I wash your dishes? Can I take the other children out for a day so you can just rest and just be with your newborn? Those are the things that they need. And with that, people can breastfeed. They can continue to do it if they're not snatched away trying to do all these things.
Right. So after you experience this, I can tell this is a passion of yours.
You know it is.
I know I can tell it's a passion. And after you experience this, and share with us some of the positive or negative experiences, because you're saying some will adapt to it and some doesn't. I mean, in your professional success or failures over these many years, what have you actually witnessed when you gave them the instructions, some of them who followed it and some of them who didn't?
Mm.
Okay, so now the thing is, at the global level, every country, they have different ethnic groups, different cultures, different languages, and so on. I cannot talk to mothers
Mm-hmm.
in a foreign country,
Yeah.
right? So our work was working at policy level. So during the HIV epidemic, it
Mm-hmm.
became really important that countries understood that if you stop mothers from breastfeeding
Mm-hmm.
because of the mother to child transmission of HIV through breast milk, then what is the alternative? And the alternative is that they have to have formula for a whole year. And are
Wow.
you going to be able to provide that? That's expensive. To
Right.
provide formula to a child for a whole year is $2,500 or more. It's
Mm.
Wow.
sometimes more than somebody's annual salary in some countries.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
what WHO, the World Health Organization, found was that if the mother exclusively breastfeeds and doesn't add anything else in, the baby, you will not transmit the HIV virus to the baby. And then if she's on ARVs, antiretrovirus treatment,
Mm-hmm.
then almost 100% she will not transmit. But if she adds other foods,
Mm.
more milks or other things, what is that the baby's gut is too immature to handle that. The
Mm.
baby's breast milk is made for the baby. That's all the baby's supposed to get.
Right.
And then
Right.
the baby's gut gets damaged by these other foods because
Mm.
their body's not made to take them at that early age. And
Wow.
then that makes them uptake the virus.
Wow.
So trying to give that scientific evidence to countries so that they can have national policies to support exclusive breastfeeding and to include it in their training of their health workers and so on. That's what we did. We tried to take that WHO, World Health Organization guidance and promote it in various countries and help them to write guidelines and write policies so that
Mm-hmm.
they say, we go this way. Either you go 100% formula or 100% breastfeeding. Most countries, they're too poor to do that. And
Right.
people, they know their people can't afford it. So if they can't afford it, the country, the national government has to provide it. And they can't afford to provide $2,000 to every breastfeeding family.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's what I would do. Or we would do research, like I was
Okay.
describing the research I did for
Mm-hmm.
my PhD. We
Mhm.
did other research to give evidence around infant feeding, maternal nutrition, and so on. Or we'd work on programs, designing programs to better influence nutrition of families and so on. So I worked at that level with the people who worked with the people who trained the folks who actually did the day-to-day there.
Okay. Okay.
Oh,
So I was
Okay.
kind of a few steps removed, but providing that enabling environment so
Uh-huh.
that we can proceed. Now, here in the US, now in my retirement, I retired in December of last year.
Okay.
mhm.
Now, in my retirement, I want to focus nationally on, not nationally, but locally on breastfeeding counseling directly to mothers. So I'm
Okay.
Mhm.
trained to be a lactation consultant, and I have an internship that I'm doing. So, further to your question, some of the challenges that we saw. One I saw just recently was a woman who had very large breasts. And so she had breast surgery to reduce the size of her breasts.
Oh.
Now, what is so disturbing is that breast surgeons are not trained in breastfeeding. They
Mm-hmm.
think they know breast. So they would just suck out tissue. They would remove the nipple and put it in a nice place, make your breast smaller, and mess up everything. There's nothing connected for the milk.
Oh no.
So she really wanted to breastfeed. But
Wow.
because of that surgery, she will most likely not be able to. Sometimes things, if it's been a long time ago, things will
Mm.
start to grow back. The body is a miraculous thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Yeah.
she's
Yeah.
able to, but
Uh-huh.
she also has other issues. She had a premature delivery, and there was a problem with the baby and herself, and she had to have a hysterectomy. So she
Wow.
doesn't have the hormones. When it was just the saddest
Oh,
thing.
oh
So
my
she's about to
Wow.
goodness.
have a baby through surrogate and wants to breastfeed her baby. And
Mm.
she may not
Okay.
be able to, but she really wants to. But she may be able to bond in other ways. She may be able to
Right.
put the
Right.
baby to the nipple for a little bit. So those kinds of things that I noticed in the US are
Yeah.
not what we see so much in low and middle income countries.
Mm.
People with breast implants because they want to increase the size of the breast or
Right.
balance the breast if they had some congenital issues. Those are some of the problems we see here that I wouldn't have seen elsewhere. The other
Mm,
thing is misinformation, because we have a whole generation of mothers, grandmothers who never breastfed.
mm-hmm.
So they can't support their daughters or their daughter-in-laws around breastfeeding. They never did it. They formula fed, they bought it and gave it to, and they feel like formula is fine. And
Mm-hmm.
so we have to help those mommies be able to push against that family influence to
Mm-hmm.
not breastfeed.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
especially amongst African American. And just today, a friend of mine called me, maybe she's online this time, and told me she was just with some people who have a young woman who's pregnant. They would tell her, don't breastfeed because it'll make your breast sag. Well, I need to tell folks that gravity is what makes your breast sag. And if you never breastfeed, your breast gonna sag.
Right. Everything goes south, right?
Yes, yes, your jaw sag.
Yeah, everything. Oh, it's, look, we have to be so careful.
We do. We do.
Um,
We do.
I was, fortunate enough to attempt to breastfeed over, for the 3 of ours. But interesting enough, the baby girl was the one I was able to breastfeed the most, and of course, she has breastfed both of hers,
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful.
and she loves it. She loves
Yes.
it.
It's inexpensive.
Right.
It's the best thing for the baby. It's made for the baby. Cow's milk is made for baby cows.
Right.
So humans don't grow like cows unless you got 4 legs and you're going to be, 150 pounds by the time you're 6 months old. Cow's milk will be great for you, but you're not.
Grazing grass.
Grazing grass.
I know diet is important to make this all happen. Do you guys make that a component?
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering if that's becoming a challenge, because again, it goes back to that support system. You're not able to get in that kitchen and prepare all this, this 3-4 course meal to make sure a rounded meal. So talk about that. Is that a challenge?
That can be a bit of a challenge. However, the body is miraculous. When God made the body, he made it such that no matter what your diet is, the macronutrients in breast milk are there. I'm going to be there. The body will break your teeth down to get the calcium it needs. It'll do whatever it needs to do because the priority is that next generation. However, the micronutrients like iron and vitamin A and so on are variable depending upon your diet. So it is important that you eat a diverse diet and get those micronutrients in there. But the macronutrients, the proteins, the carbohydrates, etc., they all are absolutely balanced in that breast milk. So even a woman who's not eating properly, or even a woman who's not very well nourished, will still produce a decent breast milk for that baby. But now we want them to have a better breast milk. So we do encourage mothers to get a good, varied diet for her own health. Because the body is taken from her. So she needs the strength to do what she has to do to take care of that baby and take care of the other children and to get healthy herself. So we need her to eat a good balanced diet for her own health, which is, we tend to forget about that mother, that woman herself. And so she needs that to stay strong and to be able to recover from delivery and to be able to breastfeed strongly herself. So yes, diet is important, but it's not as worrisome as one would think. It's very important that you have a varied diet. Your body will pull the nutrients from various things. And I think here in the US, we eat so much ultra processed foods. That don't have those.
There you go.
We need to eat more fresh fruits and vegetables.
Right.
Etc. Real food, and I don't even, as a parent, as a woman, as a human being, it bothers me to give something to a baby, a newborn, something called formula, that is some mixture of chemicals and additives in that, and it's based on cow's milk. That's the base of it. And give that to my child when I won't eat something. You don't eat your food, you just add water and stir it up and then you eat it. Do you eat your food like that? Why would you give a baby that?
I know.
And so here in the US, that's a dangerous thing. Babies have, the formula is not sterile powder. So you have to have hot, sterile water to mix with the powder to sterilize that. And often families are not doing that. They're just adding some fast water, some this and that. So babies can still be exposed to bacteria and things from the formula. Because, you're dipping the spoon back in there, and your hands in there, and your what, and, somebody else's hands in there or whatever, introducing bacteria to that. And then you're just pouring cold water and shaking it up.
Right.
Oh my God, never thought about it that way.
Wow. Well, we thank you for all your knowledge. I know we have viewers on. Please ask any questions that you may have of this Dr. Altrena Mukuria Ashe. We got a lot of wisdom and knowledge. And because of that, we focus on God, marriage, family, and life. I just want to read this scripture because just with you just talking, it reminds me of Proverbs 31. And this is just an example of you and all that you've shared with us so far. So I just wanted to take a break to read that. Proverbs 31, 26 through 31. It says, she opened her mouth with wisdom, and in her tongue is the law of kindness. She looketh well to the ways of her household, and eateth not the bread of idleness. Her children arise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praised her. Many daughters have done virtuously, but thou excellest them all. Favor is deceitful, and beauty is vain, but a woman that feareth the Lord, she shall be praised. Give her of the fruits of her hand, and let her own works praise her in the gates. That describes you, my sister. I tell you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
We have another comment here. Everything she's saying is so true.
Yeah,
exactly. And we've pretty much covered, the keys to successful milk supply. And I always thought, it's the diet and the intake of the liquids. I know all of that comes into play, but you said there the macro is
there.
It's gonna get it's gonna get it. The baby.
What you asked that question about the supply. That's the supply. In order to make enough breast milk for a baby, you have to have that baby attached to the breast, or you pump 8 to 10 times a day.
Wow.
And the more that baby is at the breast, the more milk the body will produce. The body is demand driven. If you keep the baby away from the breast or you don't pump, then the body will say, oh, we don't need milk, and it will slow down and make less. So sometimes when people think their supply is drying up, it's not drying up. It's you've convinced the body to think that it doesn't need to make anymore. And the beauty of breast milk about the body and this whole cycle between the mother and the baby is that there's a constant communications between the two bodies. If the baby picks up, as we were talking earlier, in daycare or with somebody else, they've been exposed to something and they get a little cold. When they're at the breast, they're telling the breast, mommy, I got a little cold. The mommy's body will immediately make antibodies if they aren't already there and put it into the milk and give it back to the baby.
Wow.
That's the giving formula.
Wow.
And so the mommy's milk has this, we call it an immunological characteristic, which it will produce the antibodies, add the antibodies that is needed that child is exposed to. If the mommy gets sick and gets a little cold, what she gets will be produced. The antibodies will go into the milk so that baby doesn't get sick. Because babies don't have a strong immune system. And so breast milk is from the mom that they are getting the protection that they need, and you don't get that in formula.
Right. I always tell Deidre, my daughter, I said, you got booby babies. And your baby he's not gonna be sick.
No,
it won't be a long, drawn out process. I said, you might get a little sniffle, but your baby gonna be fine. Don't worry about it.
Yes. Yes. Those first 6 months.
The first 6 months.
Yeah, that's when it's really strong. After that, now they've gotten their immunizations, they've been exposed, their body is starting to build its own. So it's not as strong. It's still some there. But in those first 6 months, that is what protects the baby. And then that takes me back to the diarrhea work. If the
Mhm.
mothers would do that exclusive breastfeeding, those babies wouldn't get diarrhea at those young ages where it's so dangerous for them.
Mhm. Well, let me ask you this. You mentioned immunization, and I've been hearing a lot of information. I don't know if it's misinformation or what on the news outlets about a lot of countries are concerned about getting their babies immunized. Some of them are not getting measles shots, and some of them are. Now, what's I mean, far as your expertise, I know you always recommend that they should and they do get them. But what have you experienced when it comes to all the negative feedback now with this I guess we got a system now to where a lot of false information is
Oh my
portrayed.
gosh. Fake news.
Fake
Yes.
news.
It's a big deal now with social media and with the internet. And you know, I think that many low and middle income countries, they're very convinced because they know their under 5 death rates are high. They see their babies are dying.
Okay.
And they know the difference. If you get these babies immunized, that will prevent many of the deaths, as I said, with pneumonia, because that can be a side effect of other illnesses, pneumonia and diarrhea and measles. But here in the US, what people don't understand is because we've been immunizing so much for so long, we have this thing called herd immunity. So you don't see these diseases and you assume they're not there. Well, let me tell you, they are waiting in the soil. They're waiting for you to bump into somebody on a bus who may have it, who wasn't immunized or whatever, and suddenly you will see the diseases pick up again if people don't immunize. So now they found measles recently somewhere that maybe somebody who hadn't been exposed, hadn't been immunized, and if they come into the herd, all those within the herd that are not immunized suddenly get those diseases. And because they weren't immunized, they may have a more severe case of that illness.
Right.
And because we haven't seen these illnesses in like a couple of generations, some of you, even health professionals, don't know what they're looking at because they haven't seen it.
Wow.
And if you're misdiagnosed, you may not be treated because it hasn't been around. And so now, if you're going to get some of these diseases, it might be better to be in a low or middle income country where they're more familiar with it, so they know it right off the bat when they see it and they can treat it. But here, you know, you may not find, you know, in some like remote areas, rural areas, etc., where people haven't seen some of these diseases in a while, it may take them a while to figure out what it is you have and treat you. So it's really important that just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not there. It's just because you're immunized and the people around you are immunized that you haven't been exposed. But once that exposure comes out, you better watch it.
Right. Okay.
Because it is an option. Apparently, parents are given that option and they're just opting out. And so again, like you said, there's the epidemic is gonna, you know,
it's gonna come, like we saw with COVID, right? Now that there's so many people immunized, you don't hear so much about COVID. But if you look, there's still people getting sick with COVID. It's still people dying. And what you find that when you do get hit with COVID, because you've been immunized, you're not getting as severe a disease as you would, a reaction to as you would. And then the virus, as in many other viruses, it's a smart mechanism. It wants to stay alive. If the hosts keep dying, it will die out. So it mutates into a milder form so that it can continue to exist and live.
Wow.
Right. And then we don't know over the long term. We know what long term will happen with measles. We know what long term will happen with chickenpox and all these other things because we've seen them. But in 20 years' time, we may find out that COVID leads to all of these other things over long term. And people think because, you know, I got it once, it didn't kill me. Well, you know, in 20 years, you may find you have something else because you got it. And so it's best not to get it if you can prevent you know, exposure to many of these diseases.
So to go back to the question or the topic of the breast milk, and so after that, you know, the toddler years, what milk would you recommend? Because all there is now, of course, is, you know, people are pushing this cow's milk, which is what we drink, you know.
But it's different when you're older, right? Your body's more developed. So they recommend no milk other milks before 1 year of age. So no cow's milk before
Oh,
1 year. So either your baby is on the breast or they're on formula,
Okay.
but no cow's milk for 1 year. Then
oh,
after 1 year, the baby's system is more developed to be able to properly process and digest the cow's milk. But if your child has allergies, because the cow protein, again, they're developing a big animal, right?
Mhm.
We're developing a much smaller animal. So their protein is big, and that's hard for our bodies to digest. So you see, they call it a um, cow's milk, a dairy allergy, but it's
right.
really
Okay.
protein that is a problem for us to digest.
Mm,
So then folks use soy milk or almond milk or all these other plant-based milks. But you
Mhm.
must understand those plant-based white drinks are not milk,
Mm.
not an animal product, which all those different things, the proteins, the vitamins, all these various things that are normally in and other things that are in an animal product is not in a plant product. So you have to either fortify it and make sure the child is also getting additional supplementary vitamins with it and
Oh.
not treat it like it's a milk, an animal milk, because it's not. And so
Mm.
you're not going to have the same properties of it. So folks have to look into what's best for their child, considering their allergy profile and
mm,
so on, and talk to your health professional and see what's best and recognize that those plant-based products will need some supplementation.
Okay.
okay.
Okay. Okay. We got a question here from Denise.
Yes.
What
Hey, you need that.
All right. She says, is there any confusion for a baby when they have breast milk from mama breast and breast milk in a bottle during the initial first weeks nursing?
Nursing. Yes, thank you. Great question. Especially in those early weeks, it's important that the baby gets breast milk. Those immunological process things that I mentioned. And sometimes a baby, folks are concerned about a confusion between the bottle nipple and the breast nipple. The
Mhm.
milk comes out differently from the bottle. In the first few weeks, it's only the first few days anyway, it's just colostrum, which is a thick thing that babies get. So whether it's out of the bottle, squeeze or spoon or whatever, it's good for them. As they get older in milk, you're getting regular mature milk.
Mhm.
From the bottle, it tends to flow faster.
Right.
Mhm.
Breast, the baby has to suck harder to get that milk out. And
Mhm.
Mm,
so there was back in the day, they thought there was some nipple confusion. Babies can adjust depending
Mhm.
on what they get to the breast and to the bottle. Babies are really smart.
they are
And if
smart.
you support them, they can. But the main thing is how you feed them. What I find, particularly with formula, going back to formula, is
Mhm.
that we fill a bottle up and say whatever 4 ounces the baby needs, and then we feed the baby like this. We pour the milk down their throats. We lay them back, we shove that bottle in their mouth, and we pour
Right.
it down their throats. And when you hear babies guzzling like they're gulping, people
Uh-huh.
think, oh, they're so greedy. No, the baby is drinking from a fire hydrant,
Yeah.
right? Put your head in the fire hydrant and try to drink, and you're gonna be going, right?
Too much.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Whereas the breast, they get just what they need. Each swallow, they suck, suck, suck till they get a little bit, and they swallow it. It
The
Mhm.
flow
flows.
is
So
easier.
mothers think that the baby's not getting up, that they want so much, because you're drowning them with the bottle. But if
Yeah.
you sit them up straight and put the bottle to their mouth, and
Mhm.
then that forces them to suck like they would on the breast,
Right.
then they can regulate it themselves. Because when they have had enough, if you pay attention to them, they show you they've had enough and stop feeding them. You
Mhm.
cannot overfeed a breastfed baby because they will stop.
Mhm.
They know when they have enough. There's a whole system within the body that it tells them when they had enough. But you
Mhm.
can formula feed or bottle feed, overfeed a baby because you're drowning them. You're forcing it down. You're saying, I
Mhm.
got to finish this bottle because it's 4 ounces. But the breast, you don't know how much. You watch them
Yeah.
eat, and when they're done, and you let
Uh-huh.
them rest. And when they're ready again, you give them some more. And so you don't force them. And so you find some of our problems with obesity comes from that bottle feeding because we've overridden the system that tells the baby, I've had enough. Because you're forcing
Oh,
them to finish a
okay.
bottle. You're saying, I want you to finish 4 ounces, or I think you should do 3 ounces or whatever. And the baby
Yeah.
says, all I want is an ounce. Because just like us, sometimes you want a Thanksgiving meal. Sometimes you just want a snack, right?
Right.
Just a little snack.
Right.
So why should I force you to eat Thanksgiving dinner when you
Ex-
just needed a sandwich?
Yeah. I wonder if that has anything to do with reflux as well. I mean, when they just upchuck it all, and it's like maybe
Too
that
much.
too much. Yeah.
Sometimes, and then sometimes there's some allergies that are there or some developmental issues that are causing that reflux too. There are a lot of things. So it needs to be assessed. Parents should take their babies to a lactation consultant if they're having problems. And if they're not able to help, they'll tell them to, of course, go see their primary care, their pediatrician, and see
Right.
what is going on with the reflux.
Okay. Well, here's another comment.
Yeah.
And it says, Amen, amen. She continues. Hope she can continue spreading the word.
That's what we want to do. We want our people to continue to breastfeed, please. Especially in the Black community, you find our breastfeeding rates are lower.
Yeah.
And this is the best thing for our baby, and it's cost effective. So if you can, we want to support mothers, whatever their infant feeding, as a lactation consultant, whatever your goals are, our job is to support that. But now here, talking to you as a public health professional, I really do want to encourage our mothers to breastfeed, to at least attempt it. Even a few months of it gives that baby some very important things that it needs for its growth and development in those early weeks and months of life. And so whatever some of this misinformation or the fake news, or even some of our traditional cultural things, because of a history of slavery, something must have been right about us when the slave master had us breastfeeding their child.
Right.
And the woman who was nursing their child, she was making breast milk because she had a child somewhere. So she was breastfeeding both children. So
speaking of breasts, I mean, I don't know if you saw that picture on the Facebook where the mother is breastfeeding the Caucasian baby, but her breasts were huge. They were just hanging. I mean, so I don't know, that's a blessing. I hear, I'm not that well endowed, but I hear that's,
size does not matter.
But I hear it becomes a back issue, and I understand that they're dealing with some things, but it's just like, keep what God gave you and go ahead and slow down. I think the younger generation is just like, I got things to do. And that's the bonding time.
The bonding time
Oh
and the
my
recovery
God.
time for the mother. But what it is that now we have to look at our policies and regulations. We do not have maternity leave. You get 6 weeks off if you're lucky for recovery from a medical condition of giving childbirth. You do not get maternity leave. And the World Health Organization and the International Labor Organization have recommended a minimum of 4 months maternity leave.
Wow.
So we need to fight in this country to get some real maternity leave for those mothers that have given birth, or even if they've adopted, or however they've had a baby, to really spend time to give that baby the best. And they need
a suggestion. Here's a suggestion too. It's like at the beginning of the pregnancy, as much as you can, even before, save your vacation, save your sick leave, and those combined can kind of get you through and work as close as you can if possible.
Right. But if you suppose you have an illness or a complicated pregnancy,
I understand.
then you run out your days before the baby is even born, because you've had to, whatever. But if this country really valued people and valued families, they would give people adequate time, and they can afford to do it, but won't. To give people adequate time. We found that during COVID, we found all this money to support families and support people who were staying at home, not working. So why can't we put that towards, if we want a good, strong future workforce, then we have to start at babyhood and support them to get that best start in life. And that's the main thing. The thing that really interferes with folks being able to breastfeed, even if they want to, is they have to go back to work within such a period of time. And our solution, which has been great with the Affordable Care Act, is that they do get pumps. and that insurance has to provide pumps. So you get a pump, but that's a technology to allow you to extract your milk, to leave it for somebody else to feed the baby. Why not just let mommy and baby stay together?
I know.
Right.
I know.
Right?
Right. So we have a Facebook user here. She's a treasure. I know. Yes, she is. There's no name, but thank you for your comment. And
Thank you.
Cousin Charcina, great information. I do remember all of this. It's been years, but that is so true. A lot of babies are having acid reflux at an early age. I'm great grandmother and never heard of acid reflux in babies. True breast size doesn't matter.
Does not.
Denise has another question here.
Yes.
It says, how can we help with spreading the word?
Please.
That question. Also, give us, any more wisdom that you want to share for our viewers today.
Well, my number one thing is that we really have to allow families to have that time. So paid maternity leave, paid family leave, so they can really spend time with the babies in the early months. And then Medicaid. We have a lot of mothers on Medicaid who cannot get the lactation support paid by Medicaid. And why not? Why? Only people who have private insurance. So your well-off people have private insurance, which will pay for lactation support, but Medicaid will not. So you will fight and have your representatives to vote. If you can push to your representatives to vote for having Medicaid support lactation support for mommies who are supported by Medicaid. Wow. And then my other thing is, if you see a breastfeeding mother in public breastfeeding, give her a thumbs up. Tell her good job. Support her. Because some of the places people want mothers to go in the bathroom to breastfeed or to put a blanket over them or something to cover them. Do you want to eat your food with a blanket over your head in the heat? Why should a baby eat their food sweating under this blanket?
Right.
The bathroom. Can you imagine taking your plate to the bathroom and eating in there? Come on.
Oh, wow.
It's almost like they're making it like it's a disgrace. It's like,
yes.
Yeah, I agree with that. Thank you for that.
Thumbs up. So thumbs up, or encourage your local restaurants and movie theaters and wherever places that you go to be supportive of breastfeeding families. That moms can come and breastfeed there comfortably. Sometimes they have a little lactation room, that's fine, but she should be able to sit and watch a movie with her baby on her breast and not have folks staring at her like she's doing something crazy. Right? You sitting there eating your popcorn watching the movie. Let the baby have its popcorn.
Mama want to get out sometime, right?
Yes.
Wow.
That is good stuff. That's good.
Well, this has been great. The hours will spent. Thank you so much. And you just mentioned earlier, you mentioned that you're retired now, but what's next on the horizon? And I know that you're not a social media advocate, but if you know anything or you want to share anywhere where people can get a hold of you, or so what you got coming up?
Yes. Well, now I'm preparing to take my exam on the 15th of April so I can become a board certified lactation consultant. And then I will start counseling mothers part-time. I'm not going to work full-time. After 44 years of working, I think I can do a part-time, but I will constantly be promoting and supporting breastfeeding families. I recently had a publication come out. If you would look online under my name, and you can go and peek at that publication. It's on Baby Friendly Hospital Initiative in Malawi. We did a study in Malawi. We also did it in the Kyrgyz Republic. And so if you want to learn more about how hospitals can be more supportive and what Malawi has done and what other countries have done to do that, to support breastfeeding in those early months, please look it up and give a click on it, because the more people who open and look at the article, the better. So that's what I'm doing. And maybe I'll get more active in social media now that I have some time. And also now that Lent is over, I got off of Facebook and Instagram because of Lent. I wanted to give that time to the Lord. And so I'll be getting back on after this Holy Week. And maybe I can start promoting more breastfeeding because I have a little bit more time, especially after the exam. After the exam, until the 15th, I'm studying every day. So I study.
Tax day.
So keep me in your prayers.
We will.
Well, that's commendable. The education, I think if people would really gravitate towards that, it never stops.
It never
We
stops.
have to continue to stimulate our brain. We were just talking about that, how our people way back in the day, we were dependent. They depended on us to make things happen.
Right.
Yes.
We're some very smart people, and so we never stop learning, never stop improving. And as one more comment, and then we're going to close out. We appreciate all the comments. We have an amen and a lot of hand claps.
Yes,
And
thank you,
prayers.
Yes,
No support.
yes, we have to, because we are living longer. I retired 60 something. My dad's 97. He has a sister who's 100 years old. So if I'm going to live, God willing, another 30 years, am I going to spend this watching TV the whole time? Come on. Let's do some work. God has plenty of work out there, right? So let's go and do some work in some way. It doesn't have to be full time. Whatever you can do, whatever your skills are, or even learn new skills. You're going to be around for a while, so you might as well be useful.
Exactly.
That's right.
That's good. That's an advice right there for us retirees. So as we close out Women's History Month, this was just so appropriate because we have one more day, and of course tomorrow is Resurrection Sunday.
Yes,
but we're just really acknowledging our ancestors and our sheroes and all those that paved the way before us. We're actually literally standing on their shoulders.
Yes,
attempting to walk in their shoes. We had some tough sisters before us. But anyway, I'm sure they're cheering us on to go higher, to go further and broader. And not only that, for us as women to go deeper and to become stronger and more diligent in the spiritual realm, and making sure our spiritual mind, body, and souls are together, and also in the cultural realm, because we got other people in our communities and of our descent that really needs to have somebody come alongside of them. We do have work to do. And so I wanted to lift up this scripture in Titus. It's in chapter 2, verses 3-5. We always conclude with the scripture, and it speaks of the older women and her role of receiving and giving in the earth. And I know you've done that. I've done that. We're all in that process. Women are always, we're nurturers.
Yes.
We're always pouring. Can't forget to take care of ourselves, though. But we're always motivating, imparting wisdom. So the scripture reads as this: similarly, teach the older women to live in a way that honors God. They must not slander others or be heavy drinkers. Instead, they should teach others what is good. These older women must train the younger women to love their husbands and their children, to live wisely and be pure, to work in their homes, to do good, and to be submissive to their husbands. Then they will not bring shame on the word of God.
Wow.
Women's History Month for you. We've got work to do. So we appreciate you guys tuning in.
One more comment.
Oh, there's
Trey.
How are you, nephew? Cousin.
Yes. So as we conclude these 40 days, and today is called, Silent Saturday, when Christ was in the grave, but we're remembering he was on the other side of being crucified, and now he's in the grave and on the other side of rising up with all power and victory in his hands. So, Silent Saturday is what it's called. We never really noticed that. We go from Good Friday to Resurrection Sunday.
Yes.
This is a crucial time. So may the rest of your day just be quiet so you can reflect on the sacrifice, the blood. So thank you guys for tuning in. Continue to enjoy your weekend. Have a glorious day on tomorrow. Until next time. Peace.
Bye-bye. Peace.
Oh.